The oceans may be the only places on Earth still full of undiscovered mysteries. They cover more than 70% of our planet's surface. While the average depth of most oceans is about 3.7 kilometers, some places plunge far deeper, beyond 11 kilometers. The Mariana Trench. Down in those depths, despite freezing cold and crushing pressure, there are places waiting to be discovered and creatures waiting to be found. But do we really know what is hidden in such a deep place? How was this trench discovered in the first place? What did the Soviet Union have to do with it? And what was the mystery behind two enigmatic sound recordings that came from the Mariana Trench over time? In this video, we will look for all those answers together and descend into the depths of the Mariana Trench for a journey full of mystery. About 180 million years ago, during the Jurassic when dinosaurs ruled the land, a battle began in the depths of the ocean. Two massive tectonic plates collided slowly but inexorably. The Pacific plate started to slip beneath the Philippine plate. That enormous weight pulled the seafloor down, and over time, one of the planet's deepest rifts was formed, the Mariana Trench. The trench stretches along the ocean floor for roughly 2,550 kilometers. The deepest point of this vast chasm lies nearly 10,984 meters below sea level. Recent measurements say the depth exceeds 11,000 meters. So this place is as wide as continents horizontally and vertically deep enough to swallow even Mount Everest. And in 1872, it was about to be recorded for the first time. Part 1. Discovery. The ship HMS Challenger set out on one of the greatest scientific ocean explorations in history. Their mission included charting the seafloor, and they traveled some 70,000 miles around the globe, about a third of the distance between Earth and the Moon. During the voyage, they took soundings at 350 different stations. They lowered a heavy iron weight attached to a long rope. When the weight touched bottom, they recorded the depth. These voyages produced the first rough charts of the sea floor. On one such expedition, near Guam in the Western Pacific, they let the rope out. The spool creaked as it ran. Minutes passed, and the line kept streaming down. The spool sped up. 3,000 meters, 5,000 meters, 7,000 meters. The crew looked at one another in disbelief. The end of the line had still not come up. Finally, the spool stopped. When they checked the measured depth, they could hardly believe it. 4,475 fathoms, about 8,184 meters. Silence fell over the ship. Until that moment, none of their soundings had reached anything like this extreme depth. Beneath the sea lay a bottomless-looking void, as if they had stumbled upon a hidden rift in the earth. Unwittingly, the crew of HMS Challenger had written the first lines of a discovery that would one day be famous. A few lesser-known facts. The depth recorded on that first sounding was actually measured with errors. Currents and the rope's catenary were not accounted for. And the idea of mapping the seafloor was not purely scientific in origin. It had important military motivations as well: to locate suitable routes for laying submarine cables and to optimize naval routes. Years later, in 1951, a British research vessel named Challenger 2 wanted to try a new technology: sonar. Sonar had been discovered in the early 1900s and was used during the 1940s to detect enemy submarines. The system sends sound waves into the water. When those waves hit something solid, they bounce back, allowing operators to learn what lies below and how deep it is. Why not use this technology to map the ocean? It was far cheaper and quicker than lowering a rope. The big question was, just how deep was the Mariana Trench? When HMS Challenger 2 took its measurements, it revealed an astonishing depth, about 10,900 meters, the deepest known point in the ocean. If you placed a 102-story Empire State Building there, the skyscraper would seem like a toy at the bottom. In honor of the ship, that deepest point was named Challenger Deep. People wanted to see what this trench looked like up close because it was the deepest place on Earth. The one thing left to do was go down there. Part 2. The Journey to the Depths. Now there was a desire to descend to the deepest point and study it, but a huge problem remained. The pressure at the bottom is roughly 1,000 times greater than at the surface, equivalent to having 3 Eiffel Towers pressing on you. To visualize this, a team performed an experiment. They placed a doll's head inside a pressure chamber and subjected it to extreme pressure. The result was both disturbing and oddly grotesque. The head was dramatically crushed. The thought of what would happen to a normal human body is chilling. A solution was needed. In the early 1950s, the bathyscaphe, a craft built to resist intense pressure, had been designed. While conventional submarines are made for long horizontal travel, bathyscaphes are built for vertical descent to maximum depths. Work on the craft began in Italy in the early 1950s. Test dives in 1954 reached only about 3,500 meters. In 1958, the US Navy purchased the bathyscaphe Trieste and modified it to withstand depths of around 11,000 meters. Trieste's first descent into the Mariana Trench finally took place on the 23rd of January 1960. The descent was not made by Auguste Piccard himself, but by his son Jacques Piccard and US Navy Lieutenant Don Walsh. Auguste was by then too old to go. The two men volunteered for a 9-hour journey in an extremely cramped space. It was a highly risky undertaking, and every preparation had been made. Traveling down at roughly 3 miles per hour, they were plunged into complete darkness after about 3,000 feet. Soon after, they witnessed a miraculous sight: bioluminescent creatures casting their own light, like a scene from some fantastical world. They reached the bottom in roughly 5 hours. At roughly 36,000 feet, they arrived at a place that 99.9% of humanity will never experience firsthand: absolute darkness, a world of silence. As they neared the final stage of the descent, through the portholes, they could see soft, mud-like sediment and very few creatures. One striking sight was a pale, flat fish, about 30 centimeters long, on the seafloor. According to scientists at the time, this should have been impossible. Bony fishes were not thought able to survive at such depths. Perhaps science had been mistaken. In his account of the voyage, Jacques Piccard wrote, "The answer to the question that biologists had asked for decades was suddenly before our eyes. Could life exist at the very deepest part of the ocean? Yes, life was there, right before us." During the ascent, the rising sediment clouded the camera images, and the team had no choice but to return to the surface. Yet they had achieved the incredible: a manned descent to the greatest depth then reached by humans. Unsurprisingly, the United States capitalized on the achievement. After the Soviet Union had been the first country to reach space in 1957, the US was quick to present itself in 1960 as the nation that had descended to the deepest point on Earth. A venture begun by a Swiss inventor had been claimed by America, hardly a surprise. The region the team visited, below about 6,000 meters, has long been known as the Hadal Zone, named after Hades, the god of the underworld who governs the dead and the gates to the subterranean realm. The deepest, coldest, most unforgiving parts of the oceans are like an underworld beneath the sea. Perhaps that is why, years later, a mysterious sound recorded from the depths of the Mariana Trench led some to wonder whether something else might really be living down there. Part 3. Mysterious Sounds. In 1997, an anomalous sound, different from giant ocean noises like the bloop, was recorded and could be detected from as far as 3,000 kilometers away. Its character bore no resemblance to waves, earthquakes, or known marine creatures. Some scientists suggested it might belong to an enormous unknown animal. Others thought it indicated a previously unknown geological event on the sea floor. In any case, no definitive proof was ever established. Later, toward the end of 2014, another odd acoustic signal was recorded to the west of the Mariana Trench. NOAA's hydrophones first detected a low hum, followed by a rising, high-pitched chime. The mystery did not resolve immediately, but after months of analysis, that later signal was accepted as an unusual call of a baleen whale, likely a form of minke whale or a closely related species. At least that was the closest match. Yet one question remains unanswered. Why are such sounds heard only at certain times and in the vicinity of the Mariana Trench? Today, the origin of that mysterious call and what lies in the Hadal depths remain unknown. Perhaps one day, our technology will reveal what hides in that darkness. Until then, the Mariana Trench will remain one of our planet's greatest secrets.